Hari Om Tat Sat. Welcome to Swami Jyotirmayananda Society, our journey to self-realization. Please subscribe our channel for the mystical meanings and to enjoy daily satsang. We are currently exploring the scripture Srimad Bhagavad Gita, commentaries by Swami Jyotirmayananda Maharaj, narrated by myself, Swami Nikhilananda. We are currently on chapter 5 and today we are starting from shloka number 8, where Lord Krishna continues to guide Arjuna. नैव किञ्चित् करोमीति युक्तो मन्येत तत्त्ववित् पश्यन् शृण्वन् स्पर्शन् जिघ्रन् न गच्छन् खपञ्चसन्. So God says, a knower of truth who is united with God feels that I do nothing at all while seeing, hearing, touching, smelling, tasting, eating, walking, sleeping. So here God is saying, no matter what activity you are doing through this physical body, it is all an offering to God. You don't take the credit for it. You know that it is the divine energy that is working through us, within us. It's the self that is doing all these things through, and we are simply an instrument. The body is simply a tool. So that is the deeper meaning. Shloka number 9. प्रलपन् विसृजन् गृहन्नुन्मिषन्नमिषन्नपि इन्द्रियाणि इन्द्रियार्थेषु वर्तन्त इति धारयन्. So now God is continuing more activities: breathing, speaking, grasping, releasing, opening and closing your eyes. He is ever rooted in the understanding that it is the senses that act among the sense objects. So all these gunas, whether they are sattva, rajas or tamas, they are all based on our nature, and the senses are all reacting with the sense objects, but ultimately that energy that is making us breathe or speak or grasp or release or close our eyes, it is all through a higher energy. But yet practically we know that it is the senses that act among the sense objects. So they, when you see sense objects, they will stimulate your breathing, speaking, your thinking, because they agitate us. Suddenly you see a beautiful flower or a beautiful face or some beautiful scenery, and everything within us feels good. Or we see a accident or a bad sight, and suddenly our emotions, our thoughts change, etc. So this is what God is telling us, that we are very susceptible to our sense objects. Moving on to shloka number 10. ब्रह्मण्याधाय कर्माणि संगत्यक्त्वा करोति यः लिप्यतेन स पापेन पद्मपत्रमिवाम्भसा. He who performs actions by invoking Brahman and by renouncing attachments to the fruits of action is not touched by sin, even as a lotus leaf remains untouched by water. What a beautiful analogy, and how beautifully Lord has explained it, that you continue to do your life, but you give the credit to the Creator. Don't think you are doing it, because we are simply living in God's world and we are His instruments. The breath within us is controlled by that divine energy. So therefore we should keep our ego humble and be grateful for our life. And just like a lotus leaf stays in the water, but the water does not impact it, it beads up and falls off, much in the same way we should live in this world. Live in the world, do activities in the world, transact in the world, but don't let the world get into you. It's like your body is like a boat. You need the water to go on the boat, so you can travel across the river, but don't let the water come inside the boat. If it does, it becomes dangerous. But many make that mistake. They put the world into them and then they wonder why they are not finding peace, why are they not happy. So Lord Krishna is guiding us just like a lotus flower. Lead a pure life. Moving on to shloka number 11. कायेन मनसा बुद्ध्या कैवलैरिन्द्रियैरपि योगिनः कर्म कुर्वन्ति सङ्गत्यक्त्वात्मशुद्धये. A yogi following the yoga of action continues to perform actions merely with his body, mind, intellect, and senses, devoid of ego involvement. He performs actions without attachment and out of the purity of his heart. So he doesn't take the credit, he doesn't inflate his ego. If something good happens, then only remember it becomes karma yoga. It has to be selfless, otherwise it will become a karma and it will bind you. If you want to come out of this mesh of the life and death cycle, then it has to be yogi, and then you do your actions for um, others, being an instrument, like we are currently doing this jnana yagya. I'm uh, doing this teaching and you are benefiting from it, where we both evolve in this process, but it's being done in a selfless manner, so anybody can be helped if they tune into it. So that is what the purpose is of this human body, is what Lord Krishna is saying. Otherwise, suppose I charged you money for this lecture and you pay and register and do this, do that, what would happen? Then it would become more like a business. It would be karma, action. It would not be karma yoga. So the path we are all on is selfless service. It has to come from the heart, and then we should do whatever we can to make this planet a better place by helping others. That's what the meaning of this shloka is. Moving on to next shloka. Yuktah karma phalam tyaktva shantimapnoti naishtikim ayuktah kamakarena phale sakto nibadhyate. One who is devoted to yoga, in this case we are talking about karma yoga, action, he attains peace by renouncing the fruits of action. But one who is not a practitioner of karma yoga is impelled by desires, attached to the fruit of action, and therefore remains in bondage. So we talked about this. Here Lord Krishna is saying it very explicitly, that only a karma yogi, because if you don't care about the fruits, as long as you have done your best, you are done, you have done God's work. And then if it happens, it's great. If it doesn't happen, it's God's will, but you are not attached to it. But somebody who is attached to karma, his actions, he will say, what's in it for me? Why should I do it? Why am I getting it? If it doesn't happen, he gets agitated and anxious. If it happens, he's overwhelmed and nervous. All these things will come. He will lose peace of mind, and he will commit karma only, action, and that action will bind him. If it's a good action, he will be bound by good karmas and good things, and if it's a bad action, sinful, then of course he will have a painful outcome from it. But nevertheless, it is karma. Whereas a karma yogi doesn't count how many good things he has done. He, whatever he does in God's name, is offered at the lotus feet of God. Shloka number 13. Sarva karmani manasa sanyasyaste sukham vashi navdvare pure dehi naiva kurvan karayan. The embodied soul, controller of the body and the senses, having mentally renounced all actions, though abiding in the nine gated city, which is the body. What are the nine gates? Your two eyes, two nostrils, mouth, and two ears. That's seven. and then your organ of generation and reproduction. So that's 7 plus 2, 9 gated city, which we are living in. These are the 9 gates through which we consume. We see things, we hear things, we smell things, taste things, etc. So, once he does not perform any actions, nor does he cause any action to be performed. So, although such people who have given themselves to God, who are doing selfless service, they are doing karma yoga. So, although they may be doing all the things that the body needs, in essence, God says they are not performing any actions that will bind them. So they can be free. They are doing yoga, they are not doing karma. Other people who are simply doing karma for their own self interest are being bound. They are circulating in the cycles of life and death. This is the difference. So next shloka, na kartratvam na karmani lokasya srajati prabhu na karma phala sanyogam swabhavastu pravartate. The divine self does not create doership in people, nor does he cause actions. He does not create the relationship between actions and their fruits. It is Prakriti that sustains these. So, such a divine self, he does not say, I am the doer, I did it, it happened because of me. So basically, they um, resign everything to the divine will, and there is no kartapana, there is no doership that it is because of me that this happened. So that mind becomes thine, it becomes an offering. So therefore there is no relationship between actions and their fruits. Whatever may happen, if it is good, then great. If it's not, then also great, it's God's will. So therefore Prakriti creates all these actions in the world that we see. You see how the rivers flow, the sun shines, the trees bloom, and flowers and fruits are generated. All the nature is basically doing karma yoga. They don't want anything in return. They simply give and give. So if a fruit tree, has is full of fruits, it falls down, it doesn't eat any of its own fruits, it just gives it away. That is the spirit of Karma Yoga. So, with this, we conclude our satsang, and we will start from shloka number 15 in tomorrow's satsang. This is Swami Nikhilananda. Hari Om Tat Sat.